You know that feeling, right? When you're waiting for something big, something that could really change your financial situation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for millions of central government employees and pensioners too across India, that feeling is pretty intense right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all centered around this thing called the Eighth Central Pay Commission.
Exactly. So in this deep dive, we're going to unpack that story. We want to explore why it's such a big deal, what changes it might bring, salaries, pensions, allowances, you name it.
And crucially, how those changes could ripple out, affect the wider Indian economy.
Right. We've gathered insights from, well, all over official government updates, some detailed financial analysis, even communications from employee groups.
Our goal here is really to give you a clear picture, the whole context, without hopefully drowning you in jargon or too much information.
So whether this impacts you directly, or maybe you're just interested in India's economy, or you just like getting into the weeds of a complex topic.
Yeah, stick around. There's a lot happening here.
Okay, let's get into it. The Eighth Central Pay Commission. Now, usually India works on a 10-year cycle for
It's the
these?
standard rhythm, yeah.
Yeah.
The Seventh Pay Commission, that was implemented back in 2016.
So doing the math, that suggested the eighth one should have been formed maybe 2024-25, with implementation penciled in for January 2026.
Exactly the expectation. And what's really key here is that the Union Cabinet did officially approve setting up the Eighth Pay Commission. That was January 16th, 2025. A big step.
Okay, approved setting it up. But what's happened since?
Well, the next major checkpoint is actually coming up soon. The Lok Sabha, that's India's lower house of parliament, they're set to discuss its constitution on July 21st, 2025.
Ah, okay. So that's where we might get some real answers from the finance ministry.
That's the hope. They're expected to provide some clarity then.
And we've already seen members of parliament asking the tough questions, haven't we? Like Shri T.R. Balu and Shri Anand Badoria.
Yes, they've been quite specific. They're asking, has it actually been notified since that January approval?
Right. And if it has, where are the details? If not, well, why not? What's the holdup?
Exactly. They also want timelines. When will the chairperson be appointed? The members. What are the specific terms of reference? The tour.
And the million-dollar question, or maybe the crore rupee question, when will people actually see these revised pay scales? Both employees and pensioners.
That's the core uncertainty right now. And look, sources are suggesting there might be a delay in that official notification. Could be procedural, administrative hiccups.
And there are signs pointing that way, aren't there? Like the recruitment process.
Yeah, that's a big one. The hiring for undersecretary level post within the Eighth Pay Commission itself that was supposed to finish by April 2025.
But it didn't?
Nope. It's been extended 3 times and it's still ongoing. That tells you the commission isn't fully formed yet. It's still very much getting set up.
You can almost feel the tension building, can't you? Among the employees, the pensioners. This isn't just paperwork. It's causing real uncertainty, apprehension even.
Especially with rising costs, inflation. People are really waiting for this.
And we've seen unions and pensioner groups taking action, right? Like the Railway Senior Citizens Welfare Society.
Mm-hmm. They've written directly to the Prime Minister. They're demanding the commission be constituted and start working immediately. That's a strong signal.
It really is. Okay, so amidst all this waiting and uncertainty, let's talk about what's actually being discussed. What's potentially on the table?
Well, it's important to remember this isn't just about the basic salary number. It's a comprehensive review.
Right, it covers allowances too.
Absolutely. Things like house rent allowance, HRA, transport allowance, TA, potentially child education allowance, CEA as well.
And even contributions, like to the pension system.
Yeah, contributions to the National Pension System, the NPS, and also the Central Government Health Scheme, CGHS. Those are expected to be revised too. It's a holistic look.
Okay, now there's one term that always comes up and it seems crucial. The fitment factor. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. Think of the fitment factor as a multiplier. It's the number they use to convert your old basic pay into the new revised basic pay. So it's pretty central to how much your salary actually goes up.
And the last time for the Seventh Pay Commission, what was that factor?
It was 2.57. Now remember, the dearness allowance, the DA, gets reset to 0 when a new commission comes in. So that 2.57 factor actually resulted in a real salary hike of about 14.3%.
Got it. So what are the projections looking like for this time for the Eighth Pay Commission?
Well, this is where it gets interesting and a bit uncertain. We're seeing quite a spread in the projections.
Like what?
Some sources are suggesting a range, maybe between 2.28 and 2.86.
Okay.
Others point to a specific proposal of 2.28, which they calculate would lead to a pretty big minimum wage increase, around 34.1%.
Wow. Okay. Any others?
Yeah, there's another projection floating around that anticipates a fitment factor of 3.0. That would translate to roughly a 20% hike.
That is a big difference between, say, 2.28 and 3.00. Why such a wide range? What influences that number?
It comes down to a few things. Different economic assumptions, different models being used. Also, you have the demands from employee unions on one side and the government looking at the fiscal impact on the other. It's a negotiation, really.
So for listeners trying to figure out what this means for them, it's more about possibilities than certainties right now.
Exactly. Treat these numbers as a range of potential outcomes. But what they all signal is a potentially significant change. Think about the minimum basic salary. Under the 7th CPC, it was $18,000.
Right.
Depending on where that fitment factor lands for the 8th CPC, projections for the new minimum range from maybe $21,600 all the way up to $41,000, or potentially even $51,480.
That's a huge potential jump at the bottom end. Really significant.
Absolutely is.
And we also need to talk about dearness allowance, DA. That's the part meant to offset inflation, right?
Correct. And that's just seen an increase. It's now at 59% of basic pay, effective from July 1st, 2025. That was a 2% hike from the previous 57%.
So people will see that in their September pay, with back pay for July and August.
Exactly. It'll show up in the September salaries, along with those arrears. And it's worth mentioning pensioners get this too. So that minimum pension of €9,000, it now gets an additional $5,310 just in DA.
But there's a twist with DA when the new pay commission comes in, isn't there?
Yes, this is crucial. When the 8th Pay Commission's recommendations are implemented, the DA is expected to merge into the basic pay, effectively resetting the DA percentage back to zero.
Ah, okay, so the base goes up, but the DA percentage starts climbing again from scratch.
Precisely. It will then start increasing again based on future inflation. Interestingly, before that reset happens, the DA is actually projected to hit around 70% by January 2026.
Okay, let's dig into some specific allowances. House rent allowance, HRA. That varies by city type, right?
That's right. Currently, if you're in a big metro city, an X-class city, you get 27% of your basic pay as HRA. For Y-class cities, it's 18%, and for Z-class, it's 9%.
And the 8th Pay Commission might change those percentages.
The expectation is that they might increase. Perhaps to 30% for X-class, 20% for Y, and 10% for Z. There's also talk this hike might be linked to when DA crosses a certain threshold, maybe 100%.
Okay. What about transport allowance, TA?
That's also likely to see an adjustment. Right now, employees at higher pay levels, level 9 and above, in metro cities get $7,200 plus DA. Others get $3,600 plus DA.
And the potential increase?
Could be around $500 to $1,000 extra per month. Not insignificant.
And for pensioners, big changes expected there too.
Yes, very significant. The minimum pension, which was set at $9,000 by the 7th CPC, is projected to rise substantially. We're seeing figures like maybe $20,500 or even up to $25,740.
Wow. And better medical allowances too, potentially.
That's also part of the anticipation for pensioners, yes. Better support for healthcare costs.
Could we maybe walk through an example just to make it more concrete for people?
Sure, let's try. Take someone at, say, grade pay 2,000. That's level 3, with a basic pay currently around 26,000.
Okay.
Now, factoring in things like HRA, let's assume a 24% for X-class city and TA, plus deductions for NPS and CGHS. Their estimated gross salary could go from about 70,659 lire, if the fitment factor is lower, say 2.08.
Right.
Up to around 86,456.6 if the fitment factor lands higher, like the 7th CPC's 2.57.
So that really illustrates how much difference that fitment factor makes. A potential difference of over $15,000 a month in gross pay in that example.
Exactly. It shows the scale of the potential impact on individual finances.
Now let's zoom out a bit. We're talking about a huge number of people affected by this, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely. The estimates are that the 8th Pay Commission will directly benefit over 1 crore people. That's more than 10 million individuals.
That breaks down into
roughly 44 to 48 lakh. That's 4.4 to 4.8 million central government employees across all the ministry departments, and then another 67 to 68 lakh pensioners, 6.7 to 6.8 million. It's a massive group.
And the impact goes beyond just those individuals receiving the paychecks, right? There's a wider economic effect.
Definitely. This is where it gets really interesting from an economic perspective. Think of it as a potential stimulus, a boost for consumption-led growth.
Because domestic consumption is already a huge driver for India's economy.
Exactly. It makes up something like 55 to 60% of India's GDP. So when you inject more purchasing power into the hands of millions of people,
Especially perhaps those in lower income brackets who are more likely to spend extra income.
precisely, they have a higher marginal propensity to consume. So this pay commission can act as a catalyst, boosting demand for goods and services.
Creating a kind of positive cycle, more spending, more demand.
Right, a cycle of increasing purchasing power and consumption, which gets reinforced by these salary corrections that account for inflation. It could really build momentum.
That sounds like a significant potential positive. But what about the cost? This must add a huge amount to government spending.
It absolutely does. That's the other side of the coin. Revised pay structures will increase government expenditure. Salaries and pensions already make up about 7.29% of revenue expenditure.
And the estimated extra cost?
The estimates are around an additional 1.8 trillion for the central government. That's a substantial figure.
So, how should we view that cost? Is it just a burden, or is there another way to look at it?
Well, the argument is that these shouldn't just be seen as costs, but as investments in human capital, investments that fuel economic growth through that consumption channel we talked about.
And potentially, higher savings could offset some of that.
That's another potential effect. Higher wages, especially for higher income groups and pensioners, can lead to increased savings. That boosts the national savings rate.
Which could lead to more investment and maybe even lower interest rates.
Potentially, yes. More savings can mean more funds available for investment, which could put downward pressure on interest rates. That, in turn, could ease the government's own borrowing costs when it needs to finance spending. So there's a complex interplay.
Interesting. And what about the effect on the job market, the whole public versus private sector dynamic?
Yeah, that's the wage effect. Pay commissions, historically, tend to narrow the gap between public and private sector pay, at least to some extent.
Making government jobs more competitive again, beyond just the security aspect.
Exactly. Government jobs have that traditional appeal security retirement benefits. When the pay becomes more competitive too, it forces the private sector to respond.
So private companies might have to increase their own pay to attract and keep good people.
That's the expected outcome. It puts upward pressure on private sector wages, which can be a positive thing for the overall labor market.
You know, thinking historically, the goal of these commissions has evolved, hasn't it?
It really has. The very first pay commission, way back, was focused on establishing a basic living wage, just enough to get by.
Then later ones started looking at parity with the private sector.
Right, and then we saw structural changes. The sixth CPC introduced those pay bands, and the seventh brought in the current pay matrix system.
So what's the narrative around the Eighth Pay Commission? Is it just about keeping up with inflation?
It seems to be aiming higher than that. Historically, yes, aligning with the cost of living was key. But with these projected hikes, maybe 30–34%, the talk is about providing high relief, actually getting ahead of the inflation curve, which is projected around 6–7%.
So it's not just keeping pace, but maybe improving lifestyles.
That seems to be the aspiration. It's seen as an opportunity to reshape government employment, allowing people a lifestyle that doesn't just tread water against inflation, but actually surpasses it.
Fostering economic security, motivation, maybe even a sense of dignity in public service.
I think that's part of the underlying goal, yes.
Now, we mentioned employee groups making demands. The Indian Railways Technical Supervisors Association, IRTSA, they put forward quite detailed suggestions, didn't they, back in February?
They did. They submitted a memorandum with some very specific ideas for the Eighth Pay Commission.
Including ideas about who should actually be on the commission.
Yes. They suggested it should be headed by a judge, maybe a retired or serving Supreme Court judge. They also proposed including a technocrat as a member.
And someone specifically for the railways.
Right. A serving railway board member arguing that railway employees have unique working conditions that need specific representation.
And their suggestions for what the commission should actually look at, the terms of reference, went beyond the usual scope.
Definitely. They brought up some long-standing issues. For instance, they want a review and the release of those 18 months of withheld DA and DR arrears.
Ah, yes, from back in 2020 and early 2021. That's still a major point of contention.
Absolutely. They also want a decision on merging 50% of the DA and DR from January 1st, 2024 as an interim measure until the 8 CPC recommendations are fully implemented.
What else was on their list?
They're pushing for interim relief, basically a temporary pay boost starting from January 1st, 2026 if the final implementation gets delayed, to compensate for inflation and issues they see with how price indexes are calculated.
And the old pension scheme, OPS, versus the new pension scheme, NPS. That's a huge topic.
IRTSA wants the Commission to examine ways to bring all central government employees back under the old pension scheme, arguing it provides better old age security.
They also mentioned anomalies in court cases.
Yes, they want the Commission to tackle long-pending issues related to pay levels, how increments work, pay fixation, promotions, the MACPS scheme for career progression, and retirement benefits. Plus, find solutions for the thousands of pending court cases on these matters.
And even work measurement.
Right. Recommending standards for work measurement and benchmarking across all central government jobs. It's a comprehensive list of demands.
So against those demands, what's the Commission's actual formal mandate?
Well, its core job, fundamentally, is to examine, review, and recommend changes to the whole structure, pay, allowances, benefits.
Taking into account the current situation.
Exactly. Considering the economy, inflation, what public servants actually need today. The aim is always stated as attracting good talent, promoting efficiency and accountability, and generally fostering excellence in how the government runs.
So wrapping this up, it's clear the 8th Central Pay Commission is, well, much more than just some routine administrative task.
Oh, absolutely. It's a really dynamic force. It's poised to have a significant impact financially for millions of people.
And through them, on the whole economic pulse of the country, that upcoming Lok Sabha discussion on July 21st, definitely one to watch.
It could provide some much-needed signals on direction and timing.
So here's a final thought for you to consider. As India aims for that high-income status by 2047, what does this whole discussion about the 8th Pay Commission tell us about the role public sector pay plays in that journey?
Yeah, it's a great question to ponder. How will competitive wages, robust standards in the public sector, how might that shape not just government work itself,
Right.
but the wider job market, the professional landscape, and maybe even overall national prosperity in the coming years? Lots to think about there.